The good, the true, and the beautiful. Our society's secular culture thinks we have outgrown these things. They think that truth and reality are all of the sudden fluid, that we somehow are so advanced that we know better than the generations that have gone before us throughout history. Welcome to the first episode of Restoring America, where our goal is to do just that. My name is Grace Reilly, and I am so grateful and excited to have you join us for the launch of what will hopefully become one of your favorite shows, a rank that I will work to earn. The idea for this show started almost a year ago, and we've been working on it for months to make sure that I can bring you unique value and analysis, along with the wonderful set and studio that we've been working to build and can see behind me. It's been a really exciting process, and it's so surreal to finally be talking to you from the set, and there is so much more to come. I want to start this episode by directly addressing the root of our problem. The division we face is incredibly deep-rooted. I think we all know that. An increasing number of people want to tear down what our founders established and what Americans have fought for since. It's crazy to think about the amount of Americans who have fought and died protecting our country and our freedom, and now to look at how many people today say they hate our country or are not grateful to be here. Of course, though, they won't leave it because it is a great country. But moving on, the division across the board is a problem. The normalization of dehumanizing, villainizing, and justifying political violence, which I still can't even believe that we have to say Charlie Kirk was tragically the victim of. But seriously, the place that we've gotten to is just so unbelievable. We also see patriotism declining, the Marxist radical left standing in opposition to American values, people unwilling to have real, genuine conversations or debates. In many ways, the state of so many political conversations has become always wrong, but never in doubt, without ever being willing to listen, consider, or respond, and beyond. When our country was founded, there was a unified view of morality. From that, our laws were written and our country was defined. It was defined uniquely, as said, establishing our rights as being bestowed by God, not man, looking to Christian principles in defining justice, liberty, and balance. Though that foundation still stands, we have lost that agreed upon, unified moral vision. We have watched the truth be denied, subjectified, and outright attacked. When I was first getting into politics, I used to watch all of the man on the street videos, all of the protest interviews from a bunch of different people, from PragerU to InfoWars, Mark Dice, all sorts of things where I was really learning, watching these debates and conversations happen. And one video, there's a few actually, that come to mind when I was deciding what I wanted to address, how I wanted to showcase one of the key problems that our country is facing. And this is a classic from years ago that is obviously still very relevant.
Would you rather have it named the Ronald Reagan College or the Karl Marx College?
Karl Marx does sound like it would be a good name for it, just because of how important he does sound and everything.
I guess I'd prefer Marx over Reagan, but that's just me.
When was the Declaration of Independence signed?
It was 19-something.
Close.
1904, 01.
1776.
That was not close.
Do you think America is great? What are the two parts of U.S. Congress?
I don't know.
So I put that together because I thought that those clips showcase so well this problem, and I encourage you to go check out the channels. You can see the names listed on the screen of where to watch the videos in their entirety, some of which I'm sure many of you have seen before because they are such classic clips. But they're fascinating. That's why, they've gotten so many views over the years, and this is only a small sample. This is a widespread problem. It's not just a few people that are interviewed. It's definitely more widespread and something that a lot of people fall into and relate to. To add another example on top of this video, different studies over the past few years have found that majorities of the younger generations support socialism. But the studies also found that they can't actually define socialism and thus do not understand or know what they are pledging support for. The most recent poll conducted by the Cato Institute and YouGov found that 62% of Americans under 30 hold a favorable view of socialism. And it gets worse. 34% of 18 to 29-year-olds, so the same category, said that they have a favorable view of communism. Crazy. This one did not ask people if they could define communism or socialism. That's my understanding. But it was found that all of the people interviewed agreed that capitalism was horrible and bad. So looking at those numbers, I mean, they're pretty crazy. And that's something over the past few years that's been highlighted. I think it was 2020 that a YouGov poll found the majority. Also, it's the same trend, agreeing with socialism and then blatantly not being able to understand what it was. So this is something that's continued. And obviously now we see socialism as a huge part of mainstream political discussion and debate. We see openly socialist candidates running for office, getting elected to office, getting close to the presidency even, and the current Democrat Party openly embracing Marxist politicians, welcoming them with open arms. That's what Ken Martin, the chair of the DNC, did not too long ago in a few different interviews. So we really see this emerging as a problem on the basis of citizens thinking that Marxism is a good idea and by, one of the biggest political parties in the country actually openly embracing it, which is all important because Marxism and the radical left's values are in opposition to what our country was founded as, the values our country was founded on. So that's a huge deal to have so many people who are advocating for policies and things that are in such opposition to that. Now, we know that there are plenty of people who are radically left and have bold intentions to transform our country away from the conservative principles that it was founded on, the founding values that so many men have fought and died to protect. And that is a serious problem. But what I think the video that I played and those statistics about socialism showcase is that there is hope. Not everyone is just radical and has bold intentions to radically transform our country to its detriment. If more people knew the truth, maybe they would change their minds. I think that we have a unique opportunity to be truth tellers and actually reach people in conversations. I really do think if more people knew the truth about socialism, they wouldn't support it. And I would actually add that to so many other things that as conservatives we push and hold true to. I think if more people really understood the why, that they would not be fighting against these principles. So I say that to say there is a lot of hope and we're not lost. But of course, the question actually is it possible to actually preserve what the Founding Fathers established? Can we save America and stop it from slipping away to the mortal threats that it faces? And that's what these are. And of course, there's plenty of threats from outside of us too, but it's always been said that if we're going to go down, it's from within. And part of that is having citizens who care and are informed and want to protect freedom. That's our duty as citizens. So that's something that we have to all take seriously and do. With the deeply rooted problems, there is hope, and we can do things in our own lives to save our country before it's too late. There's things all of us can do in our capacity. The news cycle moves faster than we can think, though. I mean, truly think. The noise and distractions of the political world, though they carry importance, right? Like the news is very important and there's relevant things coming up in the news all day, every day. Because of the pace and the noise of that, it has made it a lot harder for us to really take in and consider issues deeply. The headlines come a mile a minute, which is why it has become so easy for people to just read that and then move on to the next one, just trying to keep their head above water to be a well-informed citizen. And I know how impossible it can seem to keep up with everything going on. Trust me, when I put down X for 10 minutes, it seems like I've all of a sudden missed everything. The world's ended. I've missed some big drama or big story, things just happen so fast, and there's so much happening so fast that even as someone in politics, so I work in politics, and I have trouble just keeping up with the speed of everything and making sure that I'm, fully understanding, going in depth on things, especially since it's my job to provide analysis on them. So that's a constant thing that I try to do every day. But I can't even imagine not working in politics and trying to keep up with the news and things going on and just stay informed, but also be able to talk more deeply about current events and things happening. It's hard. It's hard to keep up with all of it, with everything going as fast as it is. And I think with the current political climate and with that noise and just the amount of things coming at us and everything I just explained, I think because of that, a lot of the time the root and the core of current events that we face gets lost. The why gets lost. Something that's good for all of us is asking the questions, what is truth? What is moral? What does it mean to be human at the core? Where does morality come from? Where do our laws come from and why? What happened to elevating and seeking the good, true, and beautiful? And why does our secular culture act like we can somehow outgrow these things? I'm going to read to you from The Law by Friedrich Bastiat. Now, this is a book that I read a few years ago when I was working with an organization called Young Americans Against Socialism, and it has stuck out to me ever since because it's short. You can see this, it's super short, but it's just a basic kind of foundational book that's definitely easy and good to dive into. But I'm reading just this little excerpt because I think it kind of describes these cores really well. So this is from the foreword, which was done by Thomas DiLorenzo, and he wrote, when we're talking about the ideal American government, it is as clear a statement as has ever been made of the original American ideal of government as proclaimed in the Declaration of Independence that the main purpose of any government is the protection of lives, liberties, and property of its citizens. And this is introing Bastiat, who said, and I can actually read it off the cover, but it's later in the book, it is not because men have made laws that personality, liberty, and property exist, but on the contrary, it is because personality, liberty, and property exist beforehand that men make laws. When approaching these things, you can't separate the reality that Christian principles were at the core of what the founders derived their beliefs from and derived their ideas from when they were establishing our country. Because we, at this point in our history, fundamentally disagree on these things, we have problems. That is the root of this. Losing that moral idea that we used to all agree upon, because we fundamentally disagree on that's where we're going to have deeper problems, even if we can have conversations. Because yes, we have a problem where we're not having real conversations and not even hearing each other or considering ideas anymore or thinking critically. But also, when the secular culture has taken such a stronghold that people fundamentally disagree on basic things that we all used to agree upon in our country, we have a problem. The founders said, for example, and they understood that our Constitution, in the way that they made it, is made for a religious or moral people. That was the required context and prerequisite for our system to work. Our society generally is consumed and directed by secular culture. There are a lot of reasons for this and a lot behind why and how we got here, which we're going to get into in other episodes. But our culture and values as a people have unfortunately reached a very different point than the early Americans and founders agreed upon. As stated, we are facing a national identity crisis. We don't have the same vision for our country's future. The rejection of truth is the problem, the core of this all. And of course, we're not going to accept a bleak prophecy of what's to come if we all keep going down this impossible path of such division, because there is hope. But each of us has a voice and responsibility to be good citizens and steward our freedom and liberties well, our God-given rights. We have a chance if we talk about why we think what we do. I'm a conservative because I believe in respect, hard work, integrity, justice, and freedom. I believe that life has inherent value and dignity. Limited government and free market capitalism provide people with freedom and independence. The government should be smaller because the more power the government has, the more corrupt it will become, as we can see. I believe in the rights stated in our Constitution. We should all have freedom of speech, the right to bear arms, and more. On this show, we're going to go deeper. We're going to talk about the whys. We're going to dive into things that maybe aren't being covered in the current event cycle. Of course, though, that are all related to the current event cycle and can be applied and give deeper knowledge to be able to understand current events. By doing all of this, we'll be better equipped to all do our part to restore America. Thank you so much for joining me on the first episode of this new show that I'm so excited has finally launched. Make sure to tune in every week. We're going to have weekly episodes to start and then more. Hopefully not too long into the future, there'll be more. But it's been so great to have you this week on Restoring America, and we will see you next time. Thank you so much for joining us on Restoring America. Be sure to subscribe, like, and leave us 5 stars to help support the show and so that you can keep up to date on each episode. You can find us on all social media platforms at the handles listed on the screen. This show is powered by the amazing Restoration of America. Be sure to go to restorationofamerica.com for much more, and I will see you next time.